Las conversaciones naturales en inglés son una de las técnicas más efectivas para mejorar la comprensión auditiva y alcanzar la fluidez. Exacto. Escuchar a hablantes nativos en un diálogo real te permite captar expresiones, tonos y ritmos que no aprenderías solo en libros. En este episodio, vamos a profundizar en un video anterior y explorar juntos, paso a paso, cómo las palabras y frases cobran vida en una conversación auténtica. Este enfoque te ayuda a comprender el idioma inglés más rápido y con confianza. Bienvenido al canal de Cómo Inglés. Y ahora la pregunta del día. ¿Qué significa It's raining cats and dogs? Déjanos tu respuesta en los comentarios y recibirás un corazón si aciertas.
This time, we're going deep into the world of language learning.
Language learning?
Specifically, English fluency.
Okay.
And we're actually going to get this from a YouTube video that's in Spanish.
Wow.
So you might be wondering, how can a video in another language teach us about English fluency?
Yeah. How does that work?
Well, it's all about uncovering those universal truths about language learning.
Right.
And I think you're going to be surprised by what this video has to say about the most important thing for fluency. It's not about knowing every single word. It's about knowing the right words.
Interesting.
And that's where this idea of Zipf's law comes in.
Zipf's law.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but
I've heard of it.
it's this mathematical principle that applies to language.
Wow.
And what it says is that the most frequently used words in a language appear way more often than less common words.
Right. Like the...
And that's true for any language.
All right.
So it's not just this random fact. It's actually something that we can use to our advantage when we're learning a language.
I see.
So how does this apply to English?
Well, so if you focus on mastering the most common English words,
Cool.
the words that come up all the time in conversation and in writing,
Got it.
you'll actually be able to understand a lot more than you think.
Even if you don't know.
Even if you don't know all the words in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to learn like every single word in the dictionary, we should be focusing on like the heavy hitters.
Exactly. The ones that are going to give you most bang for your buck.
I like that.
Yes.
The most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So that's where the Spanish YouTube video gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because it goes beyond just like listing out common words. It actually looks at how these words are pronounced
Oh, wow.
by native speakers.
That's important.
in natural conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not just about memorizing words in isolation. It's about how we actually use them when we're speaking.
Exactly.
And a big part of that is contractions,
Interactions.
which are these shortened, blended forms of words that we use all the time in spoken English.
Yeah.
And the video argues that mastering contractions is key to sounding natural and understanding
Understanding native speakers.
native speakers
Yeah.
who use them constantly.
Right.
So let's get into some specific examples.
Okay. I'm ready.
What are some of the contractions that this video highlights?
So let's take the phrase, how old are you?
How old are you?
You know, in formal English, that's how you'd write it.
Right.
But in spoken English, it usually becomes Howard area.
How old area?
And so the R and the U kind of blend together
Yeah.
to create a more casual, fluid sound.
Right. And it just rolls off the tongue easier.
Exactly.
How old area?
Exactly.
Versus how old are you?
Right.
It's much more natural.
Much more natural,
Another example is want to.
which becomes
Wanna.
wanna. And these might seem like small changes,
Yeah.
but they make a big difference in how natural you sound
Totally.
and how well you can understand fast-paced conversations.
Yeah, it's like you're learning the secret handshake
Right.
to fluent English.
Uh-huh.
What other contractions did they talk about?
Well, there are tons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we're going to get into more of them
Okay.
in the next part of our deep dive.
Right.
But for now,
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that understanding how native speakers use contractions
Okay.
is just one piece of the fluency puzzle.
So what's the next piece?
What else can we learn?
What else can we learn from this Spanish YouTube video?
Well, we've been focusing on spoken English,
Okay.
but written English.
Uh-huh.
That can be a different beast altogether.
Ooh.
And that's where our deep dive takes an interesting turn.
All right, a cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger.
We'll have to wait till part 2
For two.
to figure out what that is.
To unravel that mystery.
Unravel that mystery.
Yes.
Okay, so we're back.
We're back.
And we're continuing our deep dive
Deep dive into English fluency.
into the world of English fluency.
Yeah.
And last time we were talking about this idea that you don't have to know every word in the English language to be fluent.
Right. Just the most common ones?
Just the most common ones. And how contractions play a key role in making your English sound more natural.
Absolutely.
And we got tons more contractions.
Oh, yeah. We've got a whole bunch more.
To unpack from this Spanish YouTube video.
That's right.
It's funny. I remember when I was learning Spanish,
Okay.
you know, I thought I was doing pretty well. I was learning the grammar, learning the vocabulary.
Right.
And then I would hear native speakers talking, and it was like,
It's like a whole different language.
it was a completely different language.
Yeah.
It's like they were speaking some secret code.
And I think a lot of language learners
Yeah,
experience that.
totally.
It's like you can learn all the rules and all the words,
Mm-hmm.
but then you hear it spoken naturally.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
It's like a whole other world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's those little nuances, those contractions, the blended sounds
Yeah.
that really make the difference.
It's the difference between sounding like a textbook.
Textbook English
Yeah.
versus sounding like a
Real person.
native speaker.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive back into these contractions.
Okay, let's do it.
What other gems did you find in this video?
Okay, so how about this? Let us eat. Now, in formal English, that's how you'd write it.
Right.
But in spoken English, we almost always say, let's eat.
Let's eat.
It's like a universal call to action.
Let's eat.
Exactly.
Everybody understands that.
Yeah,
That one's pretty simple.
it is. And, it shows how spoken language often kind of evolves towards efficiency.
Right.
Like it's like a shortcut,
It's a shortcut.
Yeah.
It's like a little hack.
a little hack.
I like it.
Another good one, I have to wait,
I have to wait.
becomes I have to wait.
I have to wait.
Yeah.
Have to. That's great.
It's amazing how just a little change in pronunciation
Yeah.
can create what feels like a whole new word.
Right.
Have to.
Have to.
Yeah,
And those shifts are key to fluency.
absolutely.
Okay, what else did you find?
Okay, this is a good one. I want to go with you.
I want to go with you.
So this one's got a couple of contractions in it.
Okay.
So like we talked about before, want to becomes wanna,
Well,
and then with you often sounds more like with ya.
with ya.
Yeah, so the whole phrase
I
becomes
want to go with ya.
exactly.
Yeah, that's much more natural.
Much more natural.
Way more natural.
And for a language learner,
Yeah,
understanding that transformation can be huge
totally.
because it not only helps you sound more fluent,
Uh-huh.
but it also helps you understand native speakers when they're speaking quickly.
Yeah, it's like learning to decipher the code.
Exactly. It's like a secret code.
What about, do you have a boyfriend?
Okay, so do you have a boyfriend?
Do you have a boyfriend?
In fast speech, that do you often becomes just,
Yeah,
so it's like,
he's your boyfriend.
do you have a boyfriend?
Yeah,
I can see how that would,
that one's tricky.
yeah, that one's tricky,
Yeah,
especially if you're just starting out.
if you're not used to hearing it.
It sounds like a completely different word.
Yeah.
Okay, that one's a good one.
It's all about recognizing those patterns
Uh-huh.
in spoken language.
Okay, give me another example.
I will call you
I will call you.
becomes I'll call you.
I'll call you.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's pretty straightforward.
It is, but it's important.
Yeah.
You know, we use it all the time.
Okay, so we've got let's eat.
Let's eat.
I have to wait.
I have to wait
I want to go with ya.
with ya.
Do you have a boyfriend?
To have a boyfriend.
And I'll call you.
I'll call you.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
What's the pattern?
It seems like is like the contraction king.
Does show up a lot.
Yeah. And it kind of reflects how spoken language tends to streamline itself,
Uh-huh.
to find those little efficiencies
Okay.
that make communication smoother.
I like it.
Okay, here's another one. It is the truth
It is the truth.
becomes it's the truth.
That's the truth.
Simple. And then who is she
Who is she?
turns into who she.
Who's she?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing it again. Is
It's everywhere.
everywhere.
She is my sister.
She is my sister.
Becomes she's my sister.
She's my sister.
And then I am sorry.
I'm sorry.
Because I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this.
You're getting it.
But I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
Are contractions just for casual conversations?
Hmm.
Or can we use them in more formal situations too?
That's a great question. And it leads us to another key insight from this video.
So are contractions okay to use in more formal situations?
That's a really good question.
Or are they just for casual conversation?
And actually, the video addresses that.
Okay.
It says that while contractions are super common in everyday speech,
Uh-huh.
you might want to be a little bit more careful
Okay.
when you're using them in formal writing.
Like in a business email.
Like a business email or an academic paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a dress code.
Yeah, there's like levels of formality.
Language,
Yeah.
casual for everyday talk, and then
maybe a little more buttoned up.
For like
A job interview.
job interview or giving a presentation.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess even in those formal settings, you're still going to hear native speakers using contractions when they talk.
Yeah, it's just so ingrained.
It's just how we speak.
Yeah, it's just how we speak.
Okay, so it's all about finding the right balance.
Exactly.
All right, let's get back to the examples.
Okay.
What else did you find in the video?
Okay, so let's talk about age.
Okay.
In formal English, you might say, I am 35 years old.
I am 35 years old.
But in spoken English, we almost always say, I'm 35 years old.
I'm 35 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just contract that I am to I'm.
Right. And it's funny how those little contractions, they just become second nature.
They do.
When you're speaking fluently, you don't even think about it.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're doing it.
How about see you soon?
See you soon.
See you soon.
Now, in casual speech, that you often becomes ya.
Yeah.
So we say, see ya soon.
See ya soon.
Yeah.
I use that one all the time.
Yeah, it's so
I don't
common.
even think about it as a contraction anymore.
It's just natural.
It's just natural.
And the video emphasizes that it's not just about sounding more natural.
Right.
It's about understanding native speakers when they use these contractions.
Yeah, because they use them all the time.
All the time.
Okay.
What else? What else?
So take me to this address.
Please take me to this address.
Now, in fast speech, to this often blends together,
Oh.
almost like to this.
To this.
Yeah.
So it's like the sounds are kind of, it's like they're smushed together.
Yeah, smush together.
Yeah.
To make it easier to say.
Exactly. And our mouths are efficient. You know,
They like to
we like to find those little shortcuts.
find the shortcuts.
Yeah. Here's another good one. I want to stay here.
I want to stay
It
here.
often becomes, oh, I'm going to stay here.
I want to stay here. I want to. It's like the universal contraction.
It's just classic.
I think I'm starting to get the hang of these contractions.
You get that?
It's really all about, like you said, paying attention to the patterns,
The pattern.
not just trying to memorize a list.
Exactly.
It's about listening.
Listening to how native speakers actually talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This has been so insightful.
That's been fun.
It's really cool to kind of look at language learning
Yeah.
from this perspective of like,
From a native speaker's perspective.
yeah, and it's not about
It's not about the textbook.
not about the textbook. It's
Yeah.
about how people actually talk.
Exactly.
So for you, our listener,
What's the takeaway?
what's the takeaway from this deep dive?
Embrace the contractions.
Embrace the contractions.
Embrace those blended sounds, those little shortcuts that make spoken English so
Yeah.
dynamic.
It's like this secret code
It is a secret code
to fluency.
to fluency.
I love it.
So keep exploring. Keep listening to native speakers. Keep practicing.
Practice those contractions.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
experiment with the language.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
It's been fun.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thanks for having me.
on this journey into the world of English fluency, and we'll see you next time.
Y así, damos por concluida esta inmersión en la comprensión auditiva en inglés. Ahora es tu turno. Aprovecha lo aprendido hoy y recuerda que cada práctica cuenta para tu avance. Repasa este video o explora más contenido en el canal. Cada segundo de escucha suma. Imagina dominar esas primeras impresiones en inglés, sorprendiendo con frases simples que dejan huella, mostrando confianza y facilidad. No necesitas un vocabulario sofisticado para comunicarte con impacto. Solo conocer las palabras clave que despierten el interés de quien te escucha. Te dejo aquí otro video que complementa perfecto lo que vimos hoy. Solo haz clic para llevar tu inglés al siguiente nivel.